राधे राधे।
लाडली लाल की श्रीमत सद्गुरु सरकार की। गुरु आराधना दिश्च गुरु परमदैवतम् गुरु परतरं नास्ति कृपालु गुरवे नमः। बर्हापीडं नटवरवपुः कर्णयो कर्णिकारं बिभ्रद्वासः कनककपिशं वैजयन्तीं च मालाम् रन्ध्रान् वेणो रधरसुधया पूरयन् गोपवृन्दै वृन्दारण्यं स्वपदरमणम् प्राविशद्गीतकीर्ति यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रणोति तस्मै तद्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Any more volume? So we will chant this divine kirtan composed by my beloved Gurudev Jagat Dham Shri Kripalu Ji Maharaj. नित सेवा मांगो श्यामा श्याम तेरी, न भुक्ति न ही मुक्ति मांगू मैं। नित सेवा मांगो श्यामा श्याम तेरी, न भुक्ति नाही मुक्ति मांगू मैं। Radha
stayed suspended in mid-air. And that is where Vishwamitra created a new Svarga, celestial abode, for this king named Trishanku. So there are such examples or stories in our history, such as this king who had this idea to go to Svargalok. This universe has no limit. There are 3 billion suns in the Milky Way galaxy. And many of those suns are thousands of times greater than our sun planet. Our sun. And there are uncountable such galaxies. No scientist has ever known the extent of these galaxies, and nor will a scientist, or any scientist for that matter, know the extent of them. There are uncountable, infinite planetary systems created by God. How much can one see? So the point is that our own desires have caused us to wander in this world endlessly. Endlessly. We see a bird and we think it would be so great if science could make it possible for us to attach wings to our body so we could fly. Yes, we do travel by train and by car and other modes of transportation, but it doesn't compare to flying like a bird. But you have become a bird infinite times in your infinite lifetimes. And you have flown, but I don't remember that. Well, you don't remember it as a different topic, as your problem. But it is a fact. Oh, I wish I could stay in water 24 hours like a fish. Wouldn't that be so great? So we have a huge collection of desires which are practically pointless and unnecessary. How could we expect to fulfill all of our desires through this world when the world itself is endless? It is endless. This world has been created for us to be able to sustain our body, not to fulfill our desires. No. And in regards to desires, the Vedas tell us, Girir Mahan, Girir Abdhir Mahan, Abdhir Nabho Mahat, Navasopi Param Brahma Tatopyasha Turatyaya. Mountains are big. Bigger than mountains is the ocean. Even bigger than the ocean is the sky. And bigger than the sky is God. Tasmat Paramasti na masti kinchit. God is the greatest. But this Ved mantra from the Chandogya Upanishad states that our desires are even greater than God. Because even though God is or can be attainable, desires are virtually impossible to fulfill. Because as soon as our desire is fulfilled, we immediately embark on creating greater, bigger desires. Why? Because we're not fully satisfied. So we create more desires. And when the desire is fulfilled, we feel greedy. And if those desires are not fulfilled, then feelings of anger and restlessness, dejection, they arise. That's what happens. So, in essence, as soon as we develop a desire, we have extended an invitation to unfulfillment, lack of peace, dissatisfaction. That is what we have done. It doesn't matter how much spiritual understanding one may have. As soon as a desire manifests in the consciousness, either it will be fulfilled, and when it's fulfilled, we feel happy. And we create even more further desires. And if they're not fulfilled, then we feel lack of peace, restless, tense, anxiety arises. So this is the nature of desires. Shri Krishna says in the Gita, Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodho bhijayate. If there were no desires, if we could stop creating desires, then there would be no room for anger or greed, and all of our problems will vanish. Yada sarve pramuchyante kama yesya hridishitaha atha martyo. So, it is described in the Upanishads that if a person can get rid of all his desires, then he can become like God, free of all tension, free of all troubles. In the Bhagavatam, when it is described that when Lord Narsingh, he manifested, thank you. When Lord Narsingh manifested to save his devotee Prahlad, after he killed Hiranyakashipu, he gave an instruction to Prahlad, and he said, Prahlad bhadra bhadram te pritoham te surottamah varam vrinishvabhimatam kamapuro smayaham nrinam. My son asked me for a boon. So Prahlad said, my Lord, may I have permission to say something? So the Lord said, of course, please go ahead, feel free. So Prahlad said, Vimunchati yada kaman manavo manasisthitan tahyeva pundarikaksha bhagavatvaya kalpate. So he said, my Lord, if a human can rid himself of desires, then he will become like God, like you, my Lord. So I do not want anything. I don't desire for anything. So the Lord said that no, you must ask. You're a child and therefore you do not know. But when I manifest, then everybody asks. So you must also ask. So realizing that he had to follow the Agya of the Lord, Prahlad asked. He asked for a boon. And what did he ask for? Yadirasisha me kaman varan stvam varadarshabha kamanam hridya sandroham bhavatastu vrine varam. So he said, my Lord, if you insist that I should ask you for a boon, then please give me a boon. Please, the boon that I ask for is that I want you to make me desire less. I want you to make me desire less. Please make my intellect, my buddhi, such that I should never ever think of asking for anything. That is the boon I ask for. Please make me desire less. Vihaya kaman yah sarvan puman sharati nispriha nirmamo nirahankara sashanti madhigacchati. Gita. Shri Krishna says, people ask, oh, I have so much tension. I'm always feeling restless, having anxiety. What can I do? So Shri Krishna gives the answer, and he says, well, it's simple. Give up desires. That's what you have to do. So we hear that the scriptures and the Vedas alike tell us that all we have to do is eradicate or give up or eliminate desires completely, and all of our problems and sufferings will disappear. Now this sounds like a great solution. But the question still remains as to how we can eliminate desires. How? Because it is not something concrete that we can grab and toss away. No. So let us think about this. Why do we form desires, and what do we desire? The obvious answer is we desire the objects of the world. But why do we desire the objects of the world? What is the reason? There's only one reason. Because we wish to be happy. We wish to be happy. That is why we desire the objects of the world, for pleasure, for happiness, for contentment. But why do we desire anything? Mother, father, a great big house, prestigious job, position, status. Why? There's only one answer, and that is happiness, because we wish to be happy. So the root of all desires is the desire for happiness. Anand paane ki Govind Radhe Jeev mein nitya akanksha bata de. So every soul desires happiness. So if happiness is what we want, and if we could receive that, if we could get it, or somehow someone could give it to us, then all of our desires will vanish. We will automatically stop having desires. Because the only reason we have desires is because we wish to be happy. So if someone could bring that happiness to us, then it is only natural that our desires will stop or cease to exist. And what is that happiness? Well, that we do not know. But the scriptures tell us that happiness, yo vai bhuma tat sukham, it is unlimited, unending, ever increasing. It is divine and infinite. And not only that, it is synonymous with God. Raso vai saha rasagvam hyevayam labdva nandi bhavati. So that is our very nature. We as individuals, every moment we are striving for happiness. And not only happiness, which is limited. No. That is contrary to our nature. Our nature is to desire and experience that happiness which is infinite. That is what we desire. That's our very nature. So we desire the happiness that is essentially God, or infinite happiness and God. They are synonymous. And that is what we desire. So in essence, we desire God's happiness. And no one can eradicate this desire. It's inherent within each and every individual. It cannot be eliminated at all, because it's our very nature. And just like when we breathe, we inhale and we exhale. We inhale and we exhale. It's a natural rhythm of our life force. Yes. So someone may say, well, you either inhale or exhale. Why do you keep inhaling and exhaling? Well, it's our very nature. We do that. So, desiring perfect happiness is our very nature. Yes. So the root of all desires is only one, and the desire for perfect happiness. So those who understand this knowledge, they strive for happiness through God, through devotion, through bhakti to God. And those who do not have this knowledge, they strive for that happiness through worldly gratifications. Because there is no third object of desire that one can have. Because we are an individual soul, there are three eternal existing entities: Brahma, Jeev, and Maya. God, Maya, and the individual soul. We are the individual soul, and aside from the soul, there are two entities: God, and the path of God is known as Shreya Marg, and the path of this world of Maya is known as Preya Marg. So there are only two fields of attachment, either the world or God. That's it. There's no third object or field of attachment where we can engage or attach our mind. So, we reach a conclusion, and the conclusion is that we cannot eliminate desires, material desires, unless and until we receive that happiness that we have eternally sought. That is God Himself. And God, or God's happiness, is infinite. So when we receive that infinite happiness, then our desires will automatically cease to exist. So the scriptures tell us, as we just heard, give up. The Vedas are telling us, Shri Krishna himself tells us that if you want peace and contentment, then give up desires. But what is just listening to this philosophy going to do for us? We have heard this philosophy over the course of infinite lifetimes. We even tried to cultivate this knowledge, but we were unsuccessful. And even if we did have success, but it was only temporary. Yes. Just like if a person smells chloroform, he'll become unconscious. Now that person could be beaten or kicked, whatever. He won't feel anything. In the same way, when we go to bed at night and we go into deep sleep, what happens? Deep sleep, it's a dreamless sleep. What happens then? Our desires disappear. But how long does that last? Because we know that as soon as we wake up, they're right there again. They are back. The desires are back. So what is the recourse? What is the solution? Well, we want a solution that will permanently erase this eternal mystery. Yes. So how is that possible? So Sri Maharaji tells us, he tells us that Kamana Kabhumi Tena Govinda Radhe Hari Guru Seva Ki Kamana Bana De. So he tells us that it is impossible to eliminate desires. However, we can divert our desires from the world to devotion to God. That is what we can do. That is what we can do. So we simply have to change the field of our attachment from the world to God. So what will happen? We will be able to keep our desires, but they will now change from worldly, material desires to desire for God. Yes. Yes, and that is what will happen. So our worldly desires will gradually recede. They will diminish. In other words, our desire for God and Guru, service to God and Guru, will gradually override our material desires. And until we realize God, we visualize God, we can dedicate, serve our Guru. We can serve our Guru. So the point here is, even though it is impossible to eradicate, to eliminate worldly desires, it is very possible to divert them from the world to God. Have devotional desires. That, whenever Shamsundar, whenever Shri Krishna will give me darshan, then I will do this. This is what I will do. And this is how I will serve him. Yes. Because our worldly desires are the source of our suffering. Our suffering. And because it is innate, it is inherent within each and every one of us to experience perfection, Sri Maharaji tells us that we simply have to divert our mind. That is what we have to do. The question still remains, though, as to how we can divert our mind. We obviously need a basis for diverting our mind. On what basis can we divert our mind from the world? Because the mind needs to be engaged We need to engage our mind in something. Yes. So what can we do? Well, that practice is a tradition here at Radha Madhav Dham. Sri Maharaji tells us that we only have one mind. We can engage our mind either in the world or in devotion. So, to engage our mind in devotion, the foundation that saints in our history have established for us is very simple and yet very effective. Just as we spend time in the world with our loved ones, what do we do then? We obsess, we infatuate, we think about their virtues, their attributes. Why? Because we believe that they are a source of happiness. Similarly, we spend time with Radha Krishna. We spend time with Radha Krishna. How? Through the chanting of their divine names, their attributes, and their leelas. You see, love in the world develops. A girl and a boy, they meet for the first time. They may have felt attracted toward each other. Yes. And then they decide to get engaged, eventually married. And then they spend years together associating with each other. They spend time with each other. On that basis, they develop an attachment toward each other. That love that they have for each other is on the basis of that association, that time that they spent with each other. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, although in the world, 40 years later, things change dramatically. They change dramatically. Husband and wife, newly married, walking down the road, and there's a puddle in the front. So the husband pulls the wife, and she goes, "What happened?" "Oh, there's a puddle. I was afraid you'd trip." 5 years down the road, they're walking down the same road, and there's a puddle. This time, the husband doesn't go out of his way to grab her. He just warns her. Watch. Make sure you watch. There's a puddle. Don't trip. 10 years later, can't you see there's a puddle right there? So love in the world, it gradually diminishes. It's fleeting. It recedes. But love for Radha Krishna, it always grows. So how does it grow? In the same way that we grow love in the world through association. So Kirtan Bhakti, which is an essential tradition here at Radha Madhav Dham, is an opportunity that we get to spend that personal time with Radha Krishna, where we isolate ourselves completely from the world. In essence, we divert our mind from the world and spend time exclusively remembering them. So when we remember them, then we grow that affinity, that attachment to them. And to that extent, our mind becomes detached from the world. So it's a gradual detachment from the world and a gradual attachment to Radha Krishna. Worldly relationships, they don't have any power. It's just a figment of our imagination. We imagine it to be a reality. But devotion, bhakti to Radha Krishna, it is not an imagination. It is a reality. It is a reality because Radha Krishna and their divine names and their attributes and their leelas are a divine power. So when we associate our mind with a divine power, then we receive that power that only purifies us from within, from inside out. Purification. And that purification, it grows, it intensifies. And we gradually and slowly establish a very loving personal relationship with Radha Krishna, where we begin to feel that they are ours. Ours. That is the true goal of bhakti. Not to seek worldly blessings and prosperity. No. Bhakti is practiced to receive bhakti. And the culmination of that bhakti is the vision of Radha Krishna, their eternal servitude. So, we simply have to divert our mind from the world and engage in devotion, chanting their divine names and attributes and leelas. That is what we have to do. So, for 5 minutes, we will turn and face the altar while we practically apply what I just shared with you.
Radhe Radhe, and welcome to this beautiful day.